Ladies and gentlemen, our next session, Secrets to Building Influence and Community Through Personal Brands.
Let me introduce dear friends and very, very interesting people, Tarek El Moussa and Heather Ray El Moussa. Don't hurt yourself. I'll hug you later, Heather. Well, listen, always one of the favorite sessions of Zeta Live is when you guys come. I know you're coming primarily for the free food this evening, but in all seriousness, you know, one of the things I think that's most interesting about you guys is how you've transcended just being personalities, right? So when you think about that transcension, you know, Heather, you were a big model. You transcended to being a TV star. Now you're doing a makeup line and, you know, home goods and candles. I got them all over my house. What was the big catalyst for you, Heather, for that transition?
Well, I think starting from modeling, building a brand there, and then I started real estate and then got on TV. So now I'm on 2 shows and just, you know, built a personality on social media. I'm very interactive with my audience, so I like to know, like, what do they want? What are they looking for? So starting a makeup line and a skincare line, it's been something I've been working on for 2 years. So now I'm posting a lot about skincare and beauty, and so I'm basically just always listening to my audience. Tarek and I started a home line together, and that was just more of a side project, something fun that we are doing, and hoping to build it to something larger, get into Target and bigger stores. So that's what we're working on right now.
Well, we have some of those CMOs here, so maybe they're
Hello, would love to meet you guys.
Tarek, you had a different journey, right? So Heather, you started modeling and transitioned, which is probably not the world's oddest transition. You've done it in a big way, but not. You, on the other hand, started in your parents' garage. How did you get from there to here, T?
Oh man, that's a long story. But, you know, success for me at a young age happened fairly fast, and then losing all of that success during the Great Recession happened very, very fast. So at 19 years old, I was living in a garage. At 20 years old, I bought my first house. At 25 years old, I was broke again. At 29, I ended up on TV, and at first, you know, I didn't really like social media, and I really didn't focus on it. And because I was on TV, it did grow to a few 100,000 followers. And then I started really opening my eyes and paying attention.
I thought you were going to say you started dating Heather.
Oh, I started dating Heather.
And your social presence skyrocketed.
Well, you know that is true.
Well, obviously. But no, one day I realized, oh wait, social media is a business and it's the future. And then I really started focusing on it. And now it's the main driving force behind all the brands.
And Tarek, when you think about it, how can a brand effectively partner with social media influencers, right? Because you have a lot of CMOs here, you have a lot of organizations focused on marketing. It's, you know, you've got these agencies now that sort of sit in the middle, and some of them do a great job, I'm sure some of them do not. But when you think about the best way for a marketer to ally themselves with a social media branded person, how do you guys both, we'll start with Tarek and we'll go to Heather. Well, Heather's dying to answer.
Yeah,
so Heather's like ready to go. So look, Tarek's looking at me like, please give it to Heather.
She's going to steal my answer. I already know it.
Can you put your mic down?
So what's the question? No, I'm just
So now I'm going to forget all his David's smart questions and like, please dumb these down for me. No. Well, you know, I work with a lot of different brands, and I am one that will say no. I don't just say yes to a paycheck because I like to always be authentic. And brands can tell if you just say yes to other brands, and you know they're really looking at interaction between the audience, and you don't just pick someone because they're famous or they have 10 million followers. You pick someone that's aligned with your brand and your company, and that's makes a huge difference. And you need to pick someone that's already been, like if it's a makeup line, am I posting about makeup? Am I talking about makeup? Do I do skincare? Am I showing videos and tutorials? If my audience isn't aligned with that, then it's going to flop and it's not going to do well.
Tarek, would you like to add to that?
I mean, that's exactly what I was going to say, you know.
Because you do so much makeup, right?
Yeah, all the time.
I like to be very authentic when I'm shooting brand deals, and I think that's important too. I think people focus so much on a script or exactly what to say in the words, and if I mess up, I giggle through it. I have fun with it, and then my audience knows like I'm actually using that product that the brand is sending me, and that's really important too. So I say no to a lot of things.
And that I think is important. And when I think of social and when we're advising clients, authenticity is at the core of this. Because if you're not coming through as authentic, it's going to backfire. By the way, we've seen some catastrophic backfiring in the social ecosystem over the last few months, which I won't talk about today. But they moved away from what their audience thought was authentic versus what they thought was sort of evolutionary for them as a brand. And, for better or worse, it didn't work in that particular case. Tarek, have you, obviously, your brand is very associated with fixing up homes, flipping homes. You've done hundreds of millions of dollars worth of that. When you think about authenticity, what does that mean to you inside of your brand? And how can other marketers think about that with other social media?
Yeah, absolutely. I always just try to be myself, right? Because that's my brand. And
I'm not sure that's always a good idea, Tom.
Well, as much as myself as possible.
I'm just kidding.
HGTV after dark. No, it's really just about being authentic and being myself. And I did want to go back to the previous question real quick, because there's one thing that I thought was important. So, when you're talking about companies and influencers, someone comes to my page, I have a bigger following, and it's more brand awareness. Now, I see there's a huge opportunity with micro-influencers, which would be social media followers, under 100,000, because a lot of times the followers of those influencers are diehard followers, so they're really good for sales.
I'm then in luck. I'm a micro-influencer. That's great. It is interesting because this concept of micro-influencing is getting bigger and bigger. But I think a lot of that is specifically because of what Heather was talking about, right? Because they are just so organic. It's so authentic because this is what they're doing. So you wouldn't go to a micro-influencer who's doing makeup tips every day with a flipping house opportunity, right? But, and vice versa. And it's interesting. So Heather, I know you say no a lot. We've actually talked about this. I've heard you use the term the power of no, which is something I need to do a better job of, as my wife tells me all the time, sitting in the front seat. I don't say no enough, which is why we end up out every night, which annoys her. But how did you master that art of saying no?
Well, it wasn't easy. There was a time back in my early modeling days that I said yes to everything because I felt like if I showed up at that job that paid me $100, if I showed up at that even free job, that was one more time I could connect with someone that could get me farther in my career. I never said no to an audition. I would go to 5 to 10 auditions a day, drive all around, stress myself out, figure out parking in LA, which is not easy. It might be worse than here. So I didn't always say no. I think as I valued myself more and I started getting more successful, I started picking and choosing what I did, and that came with a lot of time. That was probably 12 years after I started my career.
And can you correlate your starting to say no to the evolution of your own brand?
Absolutely.
She said no to our first date.
I did, yeah. I said no to him.
That should have been my warning sign.
I made him chase me, which made me more valuable,
I'm fast.
We call that finite in nature. That's the economic term. No, keep going on that. And then, Tarek, I want to ask you the same question.
What was the original question?
So do you believe that when you started saying no, did you see a correlation or a causation in your brand's evolution?
Absolutely, because I waited for the bigger opportunities and I said no to ones that just did not fill my cup and weren't making me happy. And I'm so lucky that, well, not lucky, I worked hard to get to a place where I could say no. And, there's so many things that I dreamt of in my early 20s and now I've accomplished them. And I think we all move past them so quick and I don't celebrate them enough. We don't. There's things I've done in my life now that I can't even imagine back when I was 19, 20 years old, and I'm here now. So the fact that I can say no to certain things, that's such a beautiful celebration.
Now, Tarek, you say no a lot, but unlike a lot of people who are social, you came at this a different way, right? You started a business. That business became a TV show, which then furthered a series of businesses. I mean, most people don't really understand how successful you are in business, which is probably the only way you got Heather to marry you. But
the boat didn't hurt.
Yeah, the boats are good. For you, how does that flywheel work? How does the TV show drive the businesses, and then how do the businesses drive the TV show?
Got it. Good question. So,
Thank you. Were my other questions bad?
So actually, when I first got my house flipping TV show, I pitched the idea to have a house flipping TV show before I ever flipped a house. So cart before the horse. And then I got a contract to do 13 episodes in 10 months, and I had no money, and I didn't know how to flip houses. So, of course, I signed the contract. And through hard work and determination, I figured it out. And in the early days on TV, I wasn't really thinking about TV because I was so stressed out trying to learn how to flip houses. And then as time went on, the power of TV really showed because the brand started building, my marketing started doing better, we started generating more leads. And now, the TV helps the business and the business helps the TV. So we know that we need to spend more money on our remodels to make a better TV show to get more audience. Right? And we know if we get a bigger audience, we're going to have more customers and clients to do business with. So we're always thinking, how does one fuel the other?
And by the way, it would be interesting to see how large companies could do similar things from a marketing perspective, right? Because there are experiential opportunities in what you can create from a marketing perspective that begin a flywheel, right? Where if you are an automotive insurance company, you could start to, do something around car restoration or so on and so forth, and then you could sort of go from there. Tarek, when you think about that, like what inspired you to start pitching a real estate show, right? So because you could have pitched a show on car restoration, scientific facts. I'm thinking of sort of TV shows that have sort of come up organically. What was it about flipping houses that you woke up one morning and you were like, shit, I can do that?
Yeah, sure. So, I never knew what I wanted to do. All I knew was I was looking for opportunity. So every single day I'd look for opportunity. And I started off as a real estate agent. And then I did this short sale transaction. There was a first lien.
Tell people what a short sale is.
Sure. A short sale is when you sell the house for less than what's owed on it. An example of that, in California in 2007, a house would have a loan for $1 million, and we would sell it for $500,000, and the bank would take a $500,000 loss.
So the person who takes the short is the bank.
Is the bank. Yes, exactly. So I did a short sale transaction, knocked on thousands of doors to find this seller, had a first lien, second lien, third lien, HOA lien, and an IRS lien.
Against a house?
Yeah.
I didn't know you could have that many liens.
Oh, he had a lien on the lien.
I mean, that's a lot of liens.
A lot of liens. So I spent 11 months negotiating this thing. It was so much work. I got a check for $7,000. The guy I sold it to, well, he hired a gardener, hired a painter, flipped it 2 weeks later, made $130,000. And I had a defining moment. And that was the exact moment I realized I was on the wrong side of the real estate equation. And in that moment, I made the decision to become a real estate investor.
So you saw your opportunity based on seeing somebody else win when you didn't feel you did. Heather, you went from modeling also to a little TV show about real estate, perhaps the #1 TV show, certainly on Netflix. But when you first got selling Sunset, were you a realtor already, or did you become a realtor when they said, would you like to be on this TV show, and if you would, you'd have to be a realtor?
No, sir.
Okay.
I was already a real estate agent working at the Oppenheim Group, so we were already a real office. We all worked together, and the opportunity came, and none of us knew what we were doing, like a reality show about real estate on Netflix, So.
But everybody in the office happened to have one thing in common, right?
What, you want me to say it?
Well, you should. I can't.
I mean, we're all good-looking, younger girls, No. Women, sorry, ladies. And our office is on Sunset, which is prime real estate. So, they came in, they interviewed each girl in the office and gentlemen, and, it was presented to us more about women in business and women being influential. So we were like, sure, let's do this. We thought it was going to flop, had no clue that it was going to be as successful as it is. And now it's going into season 8 and 9, and it's been an incredible ride, and didn't know what I was doing in the beginning. And, it really is a business, though, being on TV. And, we work very hard, and I think people have that misconception that, you just show up and you smile, and it's a lot of work. It is, right? It's exhausting.
No, I know you guys are filming like 8 to 10 hours a day. For now you're doing 2 or 3 TV shows. But when you think about how to translate that into marketing, right? So here was an office where Jason and Brett were running this office. They had, I think, a very interesting angle on real estate by hiring extremely attractive women to work there, which doesn't suck in LA. And they then leveraged that into this TV show. That was an opportunity that they saw. I don't think people realize how successful they are in business, right?
I don't think anyone thinks, well, I think everyone has that misconception that it's just a fake TV show and we don't really do business. And but like I said earlier, we were a real office. We were real estate agents. We just happened to get this TV show. And it's created so many opportunities for us. And we went from, no one knew who we were, to getting bigger real estate deals, being worldwide known, to now working with worldwide brands. And a lot of my financial opportunity has come from working with brands.
And was it a coincidence you were both in the real estate business when you met on the boat on July 4th, however many years ago?
2019.
There you go. There you go.
It was a coincidence, actually. We met just through a mutual friend, and I was in Newport Beach. I was living in Los Angeles at the time, went down to Newport where Tarek was living. The boats we were on were next to each other. I jumped on his boat, as you know.
She saw me.
No, I did not. And I had just finished filming season 1 of Selling Sunset, so it was not a known show yet. It didn't really get known until about season 3 or 4. So he didn't know who I was. He didn't know anything really about the show.
I don't think he had to know who you were, but Tarek, I'm going to switch tracks here a little bit. When you think about building a community or a constituency, right? And when I think about both of you, so much of your success comes from people genuinely loving you, right? But to me, that comes from the organicness and the authenticity that you're showing on social media. You're showing it now. You do a TV show together to flip houses, which fortunately has worked relationship-wise. I never thought the TV show wouldn't be successful. You start flipping houses together, that can be problematic. But Tarek, how do you recommend that brands can build community around their brand?
Very simple. Really care about your audience. Like really, really care about your audience.
In this case, it would be customers.
Yeah, your customers. Try to help your customers. Try to educate your customers. Bring value to your customers. And for me, within my communities, I always ask myself, how can I bring the most value to my community? And I know the more value I bring, the more benefits I'll receive. But I really do enjoy coaching, helping, and really mentoring my community.
Heather?
Same thing. I think being in communication and being, the customers, being authentic with your customers and making sure you always message back and be on top of things. So if there's an issue, handle the issue right away.
And that's a really, really important message you just gave. It's not just caring, which of course is important, it's communicating. Can you give me, either of you, a really good example of how a brand could communicate better to their audience?
Well, we're all consumers. So even if you have a brand and a company, you also are a consumer and you buy things from other brands and companies. So how would you like to be treated? And that's how I go into things, and that's how I treat my audience. How would I like to be treated? And but I guess, what was the question?
I was going to say it's important.
Did I answer it at all?
Yeah.
No, you answered it perfectly.
Okay, so
really.
period. I am done with my answer.
Yes.
Right.
No,
Drop the mic. You're good.
I think it's really important to ask your audience questions and actually read and respond to the answers and really get to know the audience.
And
Or customers.
Yeah, or customers, same. Thank you, Heather. It's interesting to me because, Tarek, I see your social media posts all the time. I always know when one of you has posted me because people start to follow me. Like, so other than that, nobody really does. But one of the things I see as very interesting, and Tarek, you do this, Heather, but Tarek, you are extraordinary. No matter who posts a comment, you reply to it. First of all, is that actually you doing that, or do you have like a person who does that?
Me?
Okay. Why?
Me-ish sometimes.
Well, but seriously, like, why is that important on social media to reply to so many of those comments?
You know, people want to feel important. I mean, I want to feel important. You know, I'm a big fan of The Rock. If I commented on The Rock's page and he wrote back something, I would be real happy, right? So
I would too, especially his French toast. That rock toast looks really good.
These people have watched me on TV for many years. They followed my show, my kids, my family, and you know, they love getting responses. It makes them feel important. It makes them happy, and it's good for business.
Heather?
Yeah, and that would go back to companies and brands. Always communicate to your audience. And same thing, he's really good at it. I have an 8-month-old at home, so I can't always be on my social media as much as I would like. But I think
you're shockingly good at it too. And no offense to Tarek, you get a lot more comments than he does. So it's
well, she is a little better looking than me, David.
Not a little.
But yeah, just communicating and being real with your audience. We're real people. Just because we're on TV and we have a lot of followers, we're still real people. And when we get kind comments and sweet people, it makes us feel really good. And there's a lot of nastiness out there. We get a lot of hate. And, you know, I'm really good about not reacting to those. My husband, not so much. But, you know, I'm really good at just moving past those ones, the mean ones, and communicating with the love.
Yeah, it's funny because you look at what's authentic. I look at, you know, companies like Pepsi and Taco Bell and Nationwide and Progressive and others that are so good at posting either funny stuff or responses or using their characters to respond to stuff. And then I look at, last week I saw 300 brands respond that, you know, the Roman Empire would be really interested in what they were doing. Maybe the first one or two were like really cool. I don't know if you saw, there was this whole thing that the average man thinks about the Roman Empire like 3 times an hour. I can't imagine that to be true unless you lived in Rome. But that to me seemed inauthentic when it got from number 3 to like number 300. And I think that sort of authenticity, the response, it's making customers feel heard. And, you know, at Zeta, what we're really trying to do, and I have to slip the commercial in, right, or my board will fire me, we're trying to use data to create authentic experiences and create visceral reactions in a digital environment, right? You don't want to show your ad to somebody who has no intent on buying your product. Our goal is to only put our clients' ads in front of consumers who are actively in market to buy their products in that moment. So now that the commercial is done, let's switch back to you are a new mother to my godchild. So I am super excited about my little man who is so cute. It's created a lot of life changes for you. And one of the things I'm really excited about for Zeta Live this year is when you look around the room, we have a disproportionately large percentage of working women who are attending this year. Yes.
Woo!
That was a pretty pathetic clap, but thank you for trying. No, teasing, sort of. When you think I can do that, when you think about that transition from hardcore, full-on, working, and I saw you work, like we've known you for a long time. You were all in, and you played no games, and you were like, this is what I'm doing, to really protecting that family time. How has that transition been for you? And then Tarek, we're gonna talk about how that family transition has been for you.
There's so many layers to this, but I'll keep it a little shorter.
No, I got 5 minutes and 19 seconds.
Okay. So let's see. I definitely was a workhorse, trying to keep up with my husband. I was filming 2 TV shows up until I was 9.5 months pregnant, so about to have the baby. And after I had Tristan, things calmed down for me because I wanted to protect myself, my son, my peace, and our family. And it's been a really tough transition actually back into work for me because I love being a mother so much. I mean, I'm a stepmom as well, but being a mom to a newborn and an infant now, I want to spend all my time with him, and I'm obsessed with him. But I also love working. I love my job. I love what I do. And I think it was 3 weeks after I had Tristan, I was back to filming. Not full time, but the job had to get done. We had to finish the season, and so I had to go back to filming. And then, I pumped the brakes. I am not ready to go back. I needed a little bit more time. But I truly think, I don't know if I'm going to get in trouble for saying this, I don't think a woman should go back to work before 4 months. I think you're mentally not, right. I think, our hormones are still getting figured out. I was doing interviews with Today Show, Fox, E! News. I mean, we are nonstop doing interviews. Everyone wanted to hear about the baby and hear about our new life. And I mentally was just not there. I wasn't right. I was exhausted. I was barely sleeping. I was breastfeeding, trying to figure out the whole thing out, and it was very difficult. So I don't think things clicked for me until about 4 months in, and I've heard that from a lot of other women.
It's interesting you say that. At Zeta, we talk a lot about what we call our 2025 plan, and the financial metrics are pretty widely published, like $1 billion in revenue minimum, a minimum of $200 million a year in EBITDA, minimum of $110 million in free cash flow. But below that is probably the most important metric to our company, which is called an eNPS score, which is sort of how your employees think of you. And one of the things we learned was maternity and paternity were a mission-critical component of our employees' happiness and their ability to do really well. And we changed our policies around a lot to allow far more time before they come back to work. Last year, I'm not sure I should be saying this on stage, our eNPS score went from 30 to 45. 45 is really good. Our goal, long-term goal, is 50, but we're 2 years out. I think we're well positioned. And I think our change on paternity and maternity were a very big thing for us. Now, Tarek, little different for you. You have 2 older, amazing children, Tay and Bray. You now have your beautiful baby. How has family life transitioned for you with the addition of a new wife, a new child? I mean, it's so great how you all get along, but how has that changed your work-life balance?
Lots of changes. So, with Tristan, for me, I'm pretty much still working about the same amount. The big difference for me is I have a
He was doing Zooms in the hospital room when I'm trying to figure out how to breastfeed with the lactation specialist. He's Zooming next to me.
By the way, I gave a speech after Kristen had our second child from the hospital that afternoon. So I'm probably not the best guy on paternity personally. That doesn't mean we don't empower it.
See?
You 2 are adorable. Finish the question.
So I get less time with Heather, but in general, over the last 18 months, I've really worked on starting to say no. I've really focused on spending more time with my family, and I'm really getting better at separating business and personal.
So last question. When you think about the best piece of advice you would give to a marketer on how to evolve their social media presence, in a nutshell, what would that be? Tarek, I'll start with you. The one time you didn't want me to start with you.
Execute a detailed plan with a lot of content and follow that plan every single day until you hit your following.
Heather.
I'd say be consistent, be authentic, and hire very smart people to help you get there.
Thank you, everybody, very, very much.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, everyone.